you doing?
It's on.
Been all right.
Like it's on. Okay, so she did get it.
Good morning, everyone. The time being 9 a.m., I'd like to call today's Public Safety and Judicial Committee to order. My name is Myrna Molina. It is Thursday, September 16th. Have roll call, please.
Davis,
Davis here.
Brown,
Brown here.
Gums,
Gums here.
Leonard,
Leonard here.
Sanchez,
Here.
Shepro, Pirog, Molina.
Molina present. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Shepro. Okay, next item on our agenda is approval of minutes. We've all received the minutes. May I have a motion and a second to approve or any questions or comments?
Leonard
Gums
moves.
will second.
Mr. Leonard moves, Ms. Gums seconds. May I please have roll call on the minutes?
Brown,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Okay, those minutes are approved. Any public comment? Anyone in the public wishing to comment today? Okay, we will move right along. Next item on our agenda is our KingCom. Good morning, Ms. Guthrie.
Morning. Our monthly reports are in the packet. Our focus remains hiring. We do have two new telecommunicators. One is training on day shift and the other is training on the afternoon shift. After attending some conferences again, now that they're reopened, we did purchase a lot of the sessions. So by sending one person to the conference, we're able to purchase sessions that the entire team can participate and complete online. So our focus remains on hiring and training. And if anybody has any questions about the monthly reports, be happy to answer those before we move to the resolution.
Any questions for Ms. Guthrie? Mr. Shepro?
Yesterday at Human Services, we were talking about turnover, and I just wondered, how has your department been affected by vacancies or turnover? What kind of experience have you had in the past year or so?
Within the past year, we have lost a couple telecommunicators. The ones that have moved on have actually gone to centers that are closer to their home. So we did lose a telecommunicator who moved more north. She tried the commute for a while, and then she did eventually make the jump to CCOM, which is another center up north. We did just recently, maybe 2 months ago, lose a different telecommunicator who had a lot of seniority. He lived more down south. His commute was approximately an hour and a half both ways every day. And then he moved to KenCom, which will save him about 40 minutes each way. So other than those two more seniored, our vacancies are from trainees or people that we had lost in the past that we're continually trying to fill. I do have a resolution today and I can talk about that, but one of our vacancies, which is really impacting our operations, is actually our supervisor vacancy. And one of those individuals who had moved to be closer to home was one of our supervisors. So while we did have somebody step down, we also had somebody leave, and that's why we have two openings in that position.
How much is are the hires already experienced, and how much are people that need significant training?
So our training is approximately 6 to 9 months. If we have somebody come in with some past experience in 911, the challenge is learning our technology, because while call taking is the same and maybe dispatching is mostly the same, with other agencies, we all use a different form of technology. And that technology is our 911 phone system, our computer aided dispatch system, which they're typing their notes into, and then our radio system, which is a whole separate screen next to them that they use to talk on the radio. So I would say somebody who does have experience still has significant training when they go to another center, because they have to relearn. They know how to do the job, but they need to relearn how to do it there. We actually have a higher starting pay for individuals that do have experience. And we have hired people before that do have experience, but it's getting, there's so many steps in that union contract where people work very hard to get to the top pay. And they have to wait. Is it worth leaving, somewhere where they have seniority to start back over at another center? And that seniority comes not just from pay, but from being able to have time off and have holidays off and what kind of shift that they work. So I think a lot goes into that decision when they choose to leave a center.
So if somebody leaves abruptly, it's not like you can hire somebody who can come in on Monday morning and start.
No, we still have to go through significant training. We may not do the 3 weeks of the classroom basics that we would with a brand new trainee, because the 3 weeks of classroom basics are things like, this is a fire truck, this is how our phone calls are received, and we don't have to do that. But I would say it's an average still of 4 to 5 months before they learn it, how we do it in our center, before we can release them from training.
Thank you. It's very helpful. I appreciate the detail.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll move along to the resolution. If I can have a motion and a second to discuss.
Sanchez
potentially
moves.
move. Mr.
Leonard
Sanchez moves
seconds.
and Mr. Leonard seconds. Michelle, if you can introduce the resolution for us.
Sure, thank you. So as I mentioned, we've been really focused on trying to hire for these vacancies the last couple of months, and I've had a supervisor vacancy on midnight shift open for about a year. And then we've had this day shift supervisor vacancy open for probably since July. And we continue to ask staff if they would like to take on more responsibility. They have declined that offer. We've tried to hire internal, we've tried to hire external, and we haven't had much success. So this resolution comes from our next line of creative thinking, because this is not most efficient for our operations to have 2 supervisor vacancies. So this operations manager position would be, it's a management position, salaried. It would, the position would report to the deputy director and work opposite the deputy director. So we would have a deputy director on day shift. And then we would have an operations manager who would be afternoons into midnight shift and serve as a point contact for the team working those shifts. Right now, that is, thank goodness for my deputy director, Sarah, and we try to vary our hours and cross over so we can see as many of our staff as possible, but it would be just increasingly helpful to have another contact working those hours. And without success in hiring the supervisor position, this is our next thought.
Great. Any questions or comments regarding the resolution? Okay, hearing and seeing none, may I please have the roll? And this will move on to our finance committee after this.
Brown,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Shepro,
Jeffro, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay,
Thank you.
next item on our agenda is our sheriff and adult corrections.
I think, okay. I'm under Sheriff Gangler on behalf of Sheriff Hain, who was not able to be here. Our reports are on file. It looks like we have 2 resolutions up. One of them is a grant. I can talk about that when that comes up. The other one, I think it's been pretty vetted through the different committees up to this point.
Okay, great. Any comments or questions regarding the monthly report that was attached? Okay, yeah, if you want to go ahead and introduce the resolution, can I ask for a motion and a second to discuss? You can
Gums will
introduce the
move.
resolution. Okay,
Oh,
go ahead.
the first one is going to allow us to buy some speed trailers that collect data. Right now, our speed trailers just have the flashing lights that say your speed is, so people know how fast they're going. Really, one of our biggest complaints we have in the entire county is speeding and traffic related. So this is going to allow us to collect some data along with that to support and see really how fast these cars are going and help us target some of our enforcement. Also validate some of those citizen complaints that come to us that say, this is how fast these people are going through my neighborhood or up and down my roads.
Great. May I have a motion and a second to discuss?
Gums will move.
I'll second Shepro.
Ms. Gums seconds and Mr. Shepro. Oh, Ms. Gums motions and Mr. Shepro seconds. Any questions or comments regarding the resolution?
One question. I gather that data also can be used to assist transportation when they have to do studies for speed limit adjustments.
Yeah, it's something we would share that information. They get some of the same things, like they get the same complaints that we have, and not really being able to capture that data. we can put a deputy out there and write 5 tickets in a day, but that really doesn't capture what's going on when that deputy's not there or when the transportation people aren't out there. So I think that's going to help really collect good data instead of just, what we think is going on.
Thank you.
Thank you. And how long is it normally left out there? How, when on each roadway?
It depends on what we have and where it's at, the traffic flow. Sometimes right now it really is more of an education thing to let people really know. I think that most people, when they see, if you come down some of these roads and you see that flashing sign, and you say, oh, I am speeding. A lot of people react and slow down. But we don't really know what is that speed before those people do that. Or we have some people that will just completely disregard it and keep going. And that's going to help us understand, what's going on with that. So I think some of it really depends on the roads themselves. If it's a neighborhood or if it's one of our more rural roads, we may need to leave it out there longer for some of those to get good data.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Okay, if I can please have roll call on this resolution.
Brown,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, if you can please introduce your second resolution.
I haven't read it, but I believe that this is for the security camera project that's been discussed for quite a while. It's desperately needed. That's one of the most important things I can say.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion and a second to
Leonard-
discuss?
Leonard moves. Brown seconds.
Davis,
Mr.
second.
Leonard moves and Mr. Brown seconds. Okay, and I know this was just, this has gone to administration and it'll move on to finance. Mr. Sanchez, did you have any comments?
Yeah, well, I have a question. My understanding is that I think it was either tabled or not called at administration yesterday, and that this was actually going to be redirected to the American Rescue Plan Committee. Has the sheriff spoken to you about that?
I have not talked to him about that. We were kind of busy on some other things
Okay.
yesterday.
Hold, okay,
He hasn't talked to you. I mean, that's my understanding, so I'm not going to say anything outside of that. If
it was
changed
pulled from
later.
admin. Okay, so our staff is telling us that this was pulled from admin. So we're going to go ahead and I'll just have a motion to table discussion for now.
Okay.
Gums will move to table.
Okay, so Ms. Gums moves to
Seconds.
table and Mr. Sanchez seconds. May I have a roll call for tabling?
Brown,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Leonard,
Question about tabling. Are we tabling discussion or tabling the resolution?
We're tabling the resolution. We're gonna table it and we could remove it off the table once we know what the process is. But if administration has sent this to the American Rescue Committee, then really there's no reason for us to discuss it now.
Leonard, no.
Yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, no.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
That passed.
Okay, so that passes.
Brown with a question for clarification. And I'm not sure, Mr. Shepard, maybe you could clarify this. Could it be reconsidered if the person that tabled it asked for reconsideration?
Somebody who voted in the affirmative may move to reconsider, on the prevailing side, may move to reconsider.
Okay, thank you. My question then would be, because I'm supportive of this, and I think probably everybody here is, it's just how it's going to be funded. And I'm wondering if the consideration is for it to be funded through the ARPA money, that we couldn't go ahead and move forward with this now, and then it could be reimbursed through ARPA at some point in the future.
Madam Chair, may I speak to that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, having seconded the original motion to table, Mr. Leonard voted no. It occurred to me that if we table it, we've created an extra step and an extra month, because now it's tabled on this committee, which means someone would then have to wait till next month, move to take it off of the table in this committee before it could be sent somewhere. So I think a better idea would be to do something with it, which at that point, if this committee passes it out, we don't direct where it goes. You know, the ARP committee could claim that, and that'd be really a matter for discussion between the committee chairs. So I voted no, so I can't make a motion to reconsider, but I think that would be a useful idea.
Right, I
Yeah,
think,
I think the question is really how the committee flow. If the point of this was to go to administration, then judicial, then finance, and administration decided not to discuss it and send it to the ARP committee, I guess I'll defer to our chair for the ARP committee if they're going to be discussing it next week.
Well, that is the plan. I
Okay.
spoke with Sheriff the other day. I think this was a request from Madam Chair's office that it be redirected to the American Rescue Plan Committee, and my understanding is Sheriff Hain assented to that. My question is, it doesn't have a resolution number, so it's tabled here. And I'm asking Mr. Shepro this question because you
Yeah,
seem to know some of these things. It's tabled here, but it doesn't have a resolution number. So could it still just be a resolution that's put on the American Rescue Plan Committee agenda without having any reference to actions
I
taken?
mean, it theoretically, I guess, anybody could introduce a duplicate resolution.
Yeah.
But it's weird to have this on the table and then have it proceed. I guess my suggestion would be is that this committee should, if that's the appropriate action, simply take action to forward it to the
Yeah,
ARP committee.
yeah, I
And
mean,
then you
either,
got the flow.
right, so I think if maybe we would go ahead and do that. I wasn't notified that it was removed from our committee flow, so I'm fine removing it, making a motion requesting to remove it from the table. I don't think it needs to come back to our Judicial and Public Safety
Right.
Committee. We can vet it, we can get consensus, but I guess I'll make a motion to remove this item from the table or request a motion.
And then
Um,
we need a
Gum-
positive to second.
Yeah,
I'll
Gums
second.
with the original table. I will rescind that table.
Okay, so
There'll be a motion to reconsider the motion to table.
yes,
Yes,
so
you're right.
Mrs. Gums made a motion to reconsider the motion that was tabled and Mr. Brown seconds.
Okay.
So if we can vote to reconsider the motion, please.
Madam Chair, comment, please. I think it's important that we had this discussion and we have this discussion continue if we need to, because what I've noticed just in the time I've been on the board is there seems to be a breakdown in how things are done. And we should thoroughly consider and communicate and discuss at the committee level before it makes its way up the food chain and gets all the way to the county board.
I agree, Mr.
So,
Brown.
you know, if we're not satisfied with this at this point in time, this is when we kill it. If we want to support it, this is how we support it.
I completely agree. I want to be courteous to the other committees and what their direction is. But at this point in time, this was placed on our agenda for action, and I'm very comfortable taking action today.
Good.
So if we can have a vote to reconsider.
Brown,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. All right. So that was an exercise in Robert's Rules of Order for everybody watching or listening at home. Okay, so our resolution is attached. Do you want to provide any more information?
I appreciate the committee, going through this process. This is a very important project, and the sooner we can get it through, the sooner we can get going on it. It's going to be a lengthy implementation. So, I do appreciate your efforts here today. And as a political science major myself in college, I enjoy watching some of these things sometimes.
Thank you. Mr. Allen, did you have anything to add for this particular resolution? I guess I should have called you up sooner too, because you did present this at administration, I believe.
No, the only thing I could add is that the sheriff and this team has been working very hard on this. Building management is 100% support of this project. Like Under Sheriff has stated, this is a very critical project for the county.
Okay, Mr. Sanchez?
Yeah, I would just like to comment, the confusion around this has to do with the funding source of this project. My understanding originally was that the request was going to come solely from the Special Reserve Fund, the COVID Savings Special Reserve Fund. And Madam Chair is trying to hold back on that due to the budgetary process. And so that's when I spoke with Sheriff Hain and he said, all right, we got to run it through the ARP committee. Looking at the resolution a little more closely, it looks like most of the money already was planning to come from the revenue recoupment fund and only 700,000 from the special reserve fund, which is different than my original understanding of this. So it would, I mean, it would still kind of have to go through the ARP committee anyway to release those funds, but I guess it's a little ahead of today. We'll have to figure out that other 700,000 because this doesn't qualify for anything else.
Right, and the way the committee flows right now is it's to go to finance. If Madam Chair decides to send it to ARP, they can fix that little edit of the financial portion during our ARP committee too.
Well, yeah, finance will be after the next ARP
Yeah.
committee.
So
meeting,
there's still time to edit that
Yeah.
resolution. Mr.
Yeah,
Leonard?
Madam Chair, I think too, the funding for this will be decided or more directed at the Finance Committee meeting. Our position here in Judicial and Public Safety is to move it forward for the Finance Committee to consider and decide if there is any additional funding needed, where to send it, whether it be American Rescue, COVID, reserves or whatever. So I think we need to move this forward.
All right. Okay, thank you, everyone. Any further thoughts or questions regarding this resolution? Okay, hearing and seeing Mr. Sanchez?
Do we want to send this to the American Rescue Plan Committee? Wasn't that the idea? Or are we sending?
Send it to finance and then you'll probably have another meeting between finance, which is at the end of this month.
We're going to have a meeting next Wednesday, so before finance.
Okay, so
Yeah,
My understanding is that resolution will be on
well,
there.
it can go to American Rescue and then it can go to finance also.
Okay.
So if you'd like
It's gonna have
to,
go that
yeah,
route.
so if you'd like to amend it to make sure that the committee flow, it goes from today's committee
That makes
to
sense. Yes.
the American Rescue Committee.
I move that.
Okay,
I'll second it.
okay, there's a motion and a
Oh, wait,
second.
is it to just send it to, I was going to make a motion to send it simultaneously to both committees.
Well, it would go to finance after. the
It would go to,
ARP
okay, so that's the proper flow, is to have it, because the ultimate financing source will be the finance committee passing it on, correct, Mr. Leonard?
That is correct.
Yep.
And when is the American Rescue Plan, the next meeting?
Next Wednesday, the 22nd.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that will be before the finance. That way it'll be kind of nice too, because when the resolution goes to finance, we should have direction on the funding also. So that makes perfect sense. So. are
I
you
will
moving-
I'll second then Mr. Sanchez's motion.
Okay, so we are just amending the committee flow portion of this resolution and sending this to the ARP committee,
First, and then the
First.
finance, yeah.
adding
Inserting
it,
that-
inserting
that-
the ARP committee prior to finance on this committee flow portion
Are
of
we
the
also
resolution.
signifying our approval of the underlying project?
If we're allowed to do both, I would entertain a motion to
Sending
do
with
both at the same
recommendation.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would move that.
And I'll second that.
So it's an amended resolution directing it to go to the American Rescue and to finance.
Yes.
I'm saying that we gave it the. green light.
Recommending approval and sending it as specified
Yes.
by Mr. Leonard.
Thank you.
All right.
There'll be a test on this.
Pat, are you taking notes?
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
If I have I have a motion in a second, so if I can have roll call.
Brown,
Brown, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Shepro,
Jepro, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Thank you, everyone. Okay, and if I can have, okay, so thank you. And I was asked to change our agenda a little bit and allow the Merit Commission to make their report. I don't see our state's attorney here today, so if I can have our Merit Commission come up and provide their report.
Madam Chair, excuse me, I'm here on behalf of State's Attorney Mosser whenever you're ready, just so that you know.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Brady. Okay, you'll be next. Go ahead.
Microphone,
Thank you for your
please.
service.
Our biggest concern as usual. Our biggest concern as usual is supplying a eligibility list for corrections to the sheriff. We'll be testing 5 times just this year. We're going to test again in December, which we normally don't like to, but I'm sure as I'm standing here that the current list of about 15 people will be exhausted long before we test again. We had 9 applicants for this past August test. We have a list of 19, and that's because we allowed the people who took the deputy test in June and passed. We allowed them to use their present application, their present $35, and their oral interview, and all they had to do was show up at Moose Heart, take the corrections test and pass. And if they did, we put them on the list. So the sheriff had people to choose from. Most of those people obviously want patrol jobs somewhere. So, I don't know if they'll stick around or not. But again, we're testing. Comparing us to surrounding counties with the exception of DeKalb, all the other counties corrections officers make more money starting salaries than we do. And that's the number one issue why we can't compete with the other counties. When I started in 2016, we had over 200 people standing in line at 7:30 in the morning outside of this door because we limited the test to 300. Well, we're down to 19. So that's I know this isn't finance, but some of you who are attached to finance need to think about that in the next budget. The other thing is, I think within a couple weeks, we're leaving this building and moving to the first floor of the yellow building. So if you're ever looking for us, which I doubt, but that's where we'll be. And if you have any questions, I thank you for moving me up.
Thank you. Mr. Leonard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could you explain to me the discrepancy in salaries for our correction officers versus the other counties' corrections officers? What's the difference in pay?
Starting probably $3,000, $3,000 to $4,000. I think we're in the upper 50s. Kendall, which houses maybe 150 inmates, is about 63 with 150 inmates. I would guess Kane County's at about 600.
400.
450. So big difference. I don't think Kendall County runs the programs that Sheriff Haynes runs. So, it's an attractive position. Matter of fact, I'm in communication now with Wabansie and Joliet and Elgin Community Colleges to go out there with a correction officer and talk to their law enforcement classes strictly about corrections, because most departments just talk about patrol. And I think if we go out there with the flashy programs that Sheriff Haynes has started, we could attract some interest in corrections as a career instead of a stepping stone.
Thank you. Mr. Shepro, did you have a question?
Yeah, my understanding is that not all counties treat the corrections officers the same way. At least at one time, I believe, DuPage County, the corrections officers were deputy sheriffs, and that's not the case, I think, in Kane.
Used to be. When I was hired, we started in the jail and you waited until there was an opening on the road. That was in the old days. But you're right, DuPage hires and you're in the jail.
Most counties now it's a separate position. It's corrections or the road. They're definitely separated. You're right. I think DuPage or DeKalb still kind of does it. You start in the jail and then come on through. But most of the places, it's two dedicated different career paths at this point.
Of course, when I started, the sheriff's office was a white building, 2-story building where building C is. I think we could put 5 people on the second floor before they had concerns about that crashing down. You had to weigh less than 200, so I never got to the second floor. Any other questions?
Any other questions, Mr. Leonard?
Yes, Madam Chair, just one other thought. If the difference in pay is maybe, say, $3,000 a year, if we take a look at the number of correction officers that we have on board, and I don't know that number, do you guys have an idea of how many there are correction officers right now?
100 and
We're aware of the situation and this group is in contract negotiations right now. They're the first one to come up. So we're actively trying to sort some of these things out. One of the things that we did find kind of unique to this group this time was the turnover is on two ends, retirements, and a whole lot of our people got hired by police departments. So it's kind of a stepping stone for people. And then now what we're seeing is people that were hired as corrections officers in the mid-90s are now retiring. And before we weren't losing people at both ends. Now we're losing both to retirements and going to police departments. So it's a unique dynamic right now. That's
Well,
for sure.
You know, and you feed right into my thought. If we have people retiring that are a higher level, we may be able to increase the entrance level by the 3,000 without any adjustment to the budget. And then make ourselves competitive with other counties.
I think Michael Kozara would hope that I don't comment too much on our negotiation
Right,
strategy.
yeah.
That's fine, yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
point.
there are things that we're actively looking at, and we're engaged with the union. I try to sort some things out, and I think we do have some ideas as we move forward with
Thank
this
you.
group, hopefully.
Thank you, gentlemen.
the other thing is, I appreciate getting moved up on the agenda, but I'm the only merit commission that doesn't have a full-time day job. And I'm also a grandparent. So there are days that I have to babysit. So there are going to be times when no one from the merit commission is going to be here, which you'd miss my humor, and that's probably about it.
Thank you. We appreciate you having you here today. Okay, we will move on on our agenda. State's Attorney, Ms. Brady, good morning. Sorry, I didn't see you earlier.
No apologies. Good morning, Madam Chair. State's Attorney Mosser has asked me to be here this morning for her. There are no new items to report, and we do not have any resolutions this month. However, the financial report is on file. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take them back to the State's Attorney.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Brady, our State's Attorney? Okay. I don't see or hear any, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and we will move along to our Public Defender. Ms. Conant, good morning.
Good morning. Our reports are on file as well. As you can see from those, we are still closing more cases than we are opening. So we are still diligently working through our backlog from COVID. Additionally, this is the second week where in the courthouse, the Judicial Center, we have had a additional day that people can come in person. I will just point out that the majority of our clients are still opting for Zoom and not coming into court. I think that probably COVID numbers play a part of that, but I think predominantly it is the convenience to our clients. So once again, we are grateful to the Judiciary for keeping the majority of the court time as Zoom. And that's all I have for this month.
Thank you. Any questions for our Public Defender? Okay, thank you for being here. Okay, we will move along to our Judiciary and Courts.
Good
Mr.
morning.
Nunn, good morning.
Chief Judge Ho gives his apologies. He is at a two-day Chief Judges Conference, so that's why he's not here. If I could just add a couple of comments to the turnover issues. There are some things that we in government face that is a little different from most private sector jobs. You really, as Ms. Guthrie could say, you really can't be a 911 operator from home. Yeah, you can't be a good trial lawyer from home. You can't be a bailiff and work with juries and the public from home. So that's one of the issues we have. Same with detention officers. You can't do it from home. And so many of these people just don't want to have to deal with the public, because of the current health conditions. So that just adds a little frosting, to the cake. I would like to say at this time, I wanted to talk just briefly about the strategic planning retreat that we had earlier this month. On September 2nd, we brought in a Dr. Ivy from Colorado to meet with our judicial partners and people from the health department, county board, and IT to talk about long-range planning and goals. We've got some opportunities here. You've got many brand new elected officials who will be here for at least 3 years, possibly longer if they're reelected. You've got the issue with the pandemic and how technology has suddenly been thrust at us. And for the courts, we've made a change that would have taken 15 to 20 years. You've heard the virtual hearings, that Ms. Conant was talking about. And all the different technology initiatives that we're trying to push, where many of us will be submitting requests to the Rescue Act Committee. But our goal is to chart a common course, because much of what we're facing costs a lot of money. You sat here during the public safety presentations. You've seen or read about how much, what the budget requests are from the different departments, and you've only got X number of dollars to dole out. So what we're trying to do is to get all the justice partners and the other related departments like IT that supports us to go in a common direction instead of everybody else going off on their own, because we don't have the time, we don't have the money. Now, that was just our first meeting as a group on the 2nd. We are going to have another meeting by Zoom on the 30th. And this is something that's going to take place over the next several months. So hopefully we'll be able to come back and tell you a little bit about our progress then. Okay. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take it. Otherwise, I'd turn it over to Andrea for discussion on our resolution before you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Naughton, and all the work that you put together, you and Andrea, on putting that strategic plan together and getting us all there. Any other questions or comments regarding the report? Mr. Shepro?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, again, yesterday at Human Services, we were discussing, among other things, the policy about exit interviews. Why are people leaving? And it appeared that there's no current county policy on that. And I think a number of us in discussing it wondered what individual policies were. Do you conduct them? Do you not conduct them? How do you feel about it? It seemed to some of us that that would be helpful to know why people are leaving. Are they leaving because they're retiring? Are they leaving because they are closer to home? Are they leaving because they don't like the atmosphere, et cetera? And I guess I invite Doug and anybody else who has already spoken, if they've got something that you could share with us about that.
The vast majority of our employees are bailiffs, and they're retired even before they come to us. And so by the time they hit mid 70s, I've got a couple that are pushing 80, God bless them. It's time for them to retire again. The other large group of employees are staff attorneys. And I'm sorry, you're not going to get rich working for government no matter what you do. And so the glory in many of the dollars are in the private sector. So that's where they go. They come in, they get their experience, they learn what judges are looking for, what the various idiosyncrasies are of different judges, and then they go market themselves to the private bar. The others are the paralegals, same thing. We pull a lot of people in right out of the schools. They get their experience and they move on. And I get that, because there's only certain things you can do, and there's only so much money that you can pay. So that's just the issue. Many of our positions, if you don't retire out, we're a training ground. And I don't think unless you throw an obscene amount of money at it, I don't know if we're going to change it.
Mr. Shepro, can the county board hear me? This is Chief Judge Hall zooming in.
Yes, Judge Hall, we can hear you.
Okay, could I just add to that
Absolutely.
as well, Mr. Shepro?
Yes.
So I just want to just add to what Mr. Naughton said. We recognize just what Mr. Naughton said, that very often, not only with the judicial employees, but also with ASAs and assistant public defenders, that we are often the first job that they have. And there are a lot of benefits to working for the county. I started with the county in 1993 and worked on and off for the King County State's Attorney's Office for 16 years. Many of the assistant state's attorneys, assistant public defenders, and other county employees hold second jobs. I ref soccer, coach soccer, and a lot of them do the same thing. And it's in recognition of how great a place King County is to work. It's a great place to work. It's a great place to get training. But as Doug had said, at some point when we do those exit interviews, Mr. Shepro, what we learn is they're leaving for more money, and more money than I think that we can pay. We want to continue to make sure that we're competitive. That's one of the conversations that I know the county board is paying, because there are areas where we're not competitive. But again, Kane County is a great place to work. And when people do leave us in our area, it's very often because there's no way that we can match the private sector. So I do want to just reiterate that we do have those exit interviews. And as a result, people aren't leaving because they're dissatisfied with how they're treated or the benefits or how they're being, they're very happy, but they do get that experience and then move on.
Thank you, Judge. I was going to say my limited experience is that, in fact, people stay with Kane County despite the fact that they can, in many cases, could make more money elsewhere because of the atmosphere, the environment, the leadership, et cetera. So
agree 100%, 100%.
I might be talking to someone now who did that.
You are. I'm very proud to have, again, just on a side note, I'm very proud of the years that I've been fortunate to work for Kane County for a long time. And I agree 100%. I would challenge almost anybody to have the type of experience I've had in Kane County, the partnerships, the relationships, the opportunities to grow. So I'm a huge Kane County fan. And I appreciate what the board's trying to do. And there are areas we need to work on. And that's where that long-term planning that we're trying to do, I think is going to be really beneficial to us giving reports to you. And just one final thing, I want to thank Ms. Molina for sharing. I don't know how the county board does it with all the things that you guys have to do, but she gave up an entire day to be at that retreat. And I greatly appreciate the commitment she gave to us on that.
Thank you, Judge Hall. Yeah, I'm also a huge King County fan, so I'll take that over a vacation day, which is what I did. Thank you. Okay, any further thoughts or questions?
Madam Chairman, this is Alan. May I ask a question?
Yes, Miss Allen. Good morning. Go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm not on your committee, but
you're always welcome.
Thank you. By virtue of being married to my husband, I've had some experience with dealing with lawyers and the systems and so on. And I just wanted to check in with Chief Judge Hull and Mr. Naughton. Do you folks remember that there was I'm going to say a year when State's Attorney Barsanti came into every meeting and said, we're a revolving door. We're a revolving door. I'm so tired of being a revolving door. And I think it was during Chairman McConaughey's time that what we did was we pumped an extra $400,000 into the state's attorney's office for 2 years. So a total of $800,000. Now, I asked the question of State's Attorney McMahon if he felt he was still a revolving door, and he said he did not think that. There were other things he wanted, of course, there are always things that we want, but like other elected officials, public service is sometimes a good fit for people. So you will have career state's attorneys, you will have career public defenders because it suits them. And I'm wondering if we now have a salary schedule such that it's not really a revolving door. It's people figure out if they are a good fit and they want to stay, or they're ready to move on. Can you speak to that?
Doug, you want me to start with that?
Yeah. Yes, please go ahead.
So one is I would defer to Ms. Conant and Ms. Masser. I think that they would tell you that they do believe that there are still areas where the assistant PDs and assistant ASAs are not compensated the same way that other counties are. And that's what we look at. But I do agree with you that I don't think that it's a revolving door the way it once was. I was an assistant back then. And so I left the county twice to take different jobs for more money because I was trying to raise 4 kids, but I kept coming back like a boomerang because I was never quite as happy every place else as I was in King County. So I do think that there are things that the county provides that will always, which will always attract good people. But as Ms. Conant and Ms. Masser have been doing the salary comparisons, the hard part is when we lose assistance to other counties, that's the concern. If we lose assistance to private practice, that's one thing, but it's when we lose assistance to other counties or other public agencies that I think that there's the concern. So we will always attract really good people, and people will stay despite the salaries because of the great working atmosphere and the benefits they get. But I do think that although it's not like it was when Judge Barsani was there in the times that you were talking about, we do see some discrepancies that we've already brought to your attention as we compare our salaries to other counties. But again, it's not like it was in the mid-90s.
That's really helpful. We all understand that there's a point where your kids want to go to college.
Right.
And you need to have some money to help do that. Is it possible to kind of keep track of people who are leaving for the private sector and people who are going to other counties so that we maybe have some data to fall back on? Would that be burdensome to do that?
Ms. Koenig, can I defer to you on that? Because, and I know Ms. Brady's here on behalf of Ms. Masser. I don't want to speak on their behalfs, but I know on our end, it would not be cumbersome at all.
Certainly. Thank you, Judge. I would first wholeheartedly agree with Judge Hull's comments. I also am a huge fan of King County and I'm a lifer, so to speak. This has been my entire career. And we do have a number of people in both the state's attorney's office and the public defender's office that has been their choice to be in these positions because this is what they want to do. They want to serve the public and they want to do it in King County. I would say that I would agree that in this particular time, our office at least is not a revolving door, but our issue at this point is equitable pay and compensating those people who have chosen to make King County their home equitably, not only with other counties, but between the public defender's office and the state's attorney's office as well. In relation to your question, Ms. Allen, certainly that is something that we can keep track of, and it would not be burdensome to get you those numbers.
That would be helpful. We all have anecdotes. We all know people who've been through this, but if we can fall back on some data, I know you've been trying to give us the numbers on other counties and so on. So if we have data to crunch, it's generally helpful. So we're not so that we have real things to point at when we're talking to each other and trying to convince each other about what direction to go in. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Mr. Shepherd, would you like something to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say is that at least I would think in the case of the state's attorney and the public defender, the elasticity of the demand or leaving is also going to be dependent on other things. I would think, for example, caseload. The pay may be great, but if your caseload is 50% larger than a surrounding county, I would guess that might be a reason someone would leave. I know in other areas of government and private industry, like the nurses, a lot of people are dropping out because of the stress. And even when they're being offered bonus pay, people are saying, I can't deal with that. I know that offices have different policies with respect to working families, working parents. What's their policy about that? Some are probably more accommodating than others, but I guess I'm encouraged by the notion that this is information that I think would be helpful to everybody, and it doesn't sound like it's burdensome to collect it.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's move along. There's a lot of great discussion, but we have a resolution from our judiciary. Andrea?
Thank you.
No, go ahead if you want to introduce it, and then we will.
The resolution that we've submitted before you today, it's a supplement to the Child Protection Data Court grant that was approved at the end of last year. We were lucky enough to get an opportunity to apply for additional funds from the state to improve some of our equipment in our abuse and neglect courtroom. So we have 2 conference rooms outside of the courtroom. Judge Karianis, who's the presiding judge there, does a lot of remote hearings. And so we have had an interest in supplying the conference rooms with technology and screens and equipment so they could be, we could conduct remote hearings in there as well. So we applied for this additional grant. We were awarded it in the amount of $2,633. And this would be used to equip the conference rooms for people to use if they come in person to do Zoom hearings for abuse and neglect.
Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to discuss and potentially approve?
Leonard
Mr. Brown
moves.
moves, Mr. Leonard seconds. Any comments or questions regarding this resolution? No, thank you for your work. Okay, if I can have a roll call to approve.
Brown,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
Davest.
Davis, yes.
Thank you.
Paulina, yes. Thank you, everyone. Oh, okay, and that passes. Okay, so we will move on to our court services. Ms. Ost, good morning.
Good morning. So I don't have any resolutions today, this morning, but unironically enough, I guess I was going to talk about some of my staffing issues. So I'll talk about COVID first. Under court services, as you know, we have the diagnostic center, probation and detention. In probation, I'm really short-staffed right now because I've had a number of staff test positive for COVID that were unrelated to each other, but they did bring it into the office. And so I have many staff quarantining right now. As a result, everyone's testing negative so far, but we're erring on the side of caution and CDC regulations. When you're unvaccinated, you have to quarantine. At the JJC, we've had 2 kids and 3 staff test positive. Again, unfortunately, it was an unvaccinated person that brought it in, but we're dealing with it. We're testing. We've been 2 weeks now, 2 Tuesdays in a row. Everyone's tested negative. Fingers crossed, we can keep this up for another week, and then the health department will clear us to go back to regular programming. And I want to segue. I love the health department. They've been fabulous. We're in contact with them all the time. They're staffing with us all the time. They're wonderful. And the sheriff's office has been wonderful as well, helping us with testing and letting us use their supplies. They're just wonderful. But now I'm going to be upset with the sheriff's department because they keep stealing my staff. So as said earlier, the jail does hire people in the high 50s. Detention hires people in the low 40s. It's not a hard jump. They've been doing a ton of hiring. I've been losing a lot of staff to them. Not only have I been losing staff to the jail and but local police departments as well. And so we do exit interviews when we talk to our staff about why are they leaving. And overwhelmingly, it's for more money or for better hours. Again, as Mr. Naughton says, we have to be on site. You can't do detention from home. You can't sit at your kitchen table and do a Zoom call and do detention. So right now, our JJC has 15 openings, which is a lot. That's a lot for us. Fortunately, we are hiring 7 people starting next week, which is awesome. So we have a few more to go, but it's the grind. It's the toll that it takes on upper management as well, because we have, for example, I have 2 support staff openings. I've had to post twice just to get enough candidates to make a good candidate pool to begin interviews. We're just not seeing the applicants. And on the JJC side, like we'll get 2 or 3 applicants maybe. And so we'll drop everything and go ahead and interview, but then you have to post all over again. It's the constant calls. In probation, in court services, we require a minimum of a bachelor's degree. That's a state standard, whereas the sheriff's department does not. You can have a high school diploma and be a jail worker. But so we have a higher stress load because we have juveniles. We're not allowed to use the same kind of holds as they do as adults. We can't use room time. We can't isolate. And so it's a far more intensive environment. We have less pay and yet higher educational requirements. So it's the pandemic, I think, has exacerbated and really brought that forward for us. And it is a grind. And in fact, many of you have noticed Mr. Davis has not been coming so much lately for the agenda. And largely it's just because of the increased needs of his department. He sits in and I sit in on every single interview, and we've been interviewing pretty much weekly for a full day, 8 hours a day, at least weekly. And that takes a toll on not only the management, but the rest of the work that we're able to do. Like, for example, my annual plan just got out a couple of months ago. That's way later than January or February when I would have liked to have done it, but it slows down the whole workflow. And of course, we've got COVID, which, all right, we'll deal with and we'll get through it. So I don't have any resolutions in front of you today, but that is in a snapshot where we're at in the department.
Thank you, Ms. Austin. I guess we're going to continue hearing about it. I mean, there's reports and everything coming out about the great resignation of 2021 and how, it's might not just be pay, it's just, the way people are living and our lifestyles are changing. And if our work environment doesn't change along with how people want to live, we're going to continue seeing people just quit.
Absolutely. And I'll even, Dr. Singh is here this morning. She's got 2 staff psychologist positions she can't fill because her office now is competing with telehealth. And so when you're a highly trained, highly skilled professional with a doctorate degree, do you want to sit at home and do telehealth from your computer and get paid more, or have to come to work and interview people in a jail and deal with the criminally insane? It's really tough.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being here. I know I'm taking you away from other things that you'd rather be doing.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Okay, any further questions, Mr. Brown?
Question. Since it seems like we always turn these conversations back around to dollars and cents, I would imagine when you're down 15 positions, you're having to cover that workload somehow. So now you're paying your other employees overtime. Am I correct?
Yes, you are correct. And in fact, the JJC, I haven't run the numbers in a month and a half, but the last time we usually do about 30,000 or so in overtime a year. We're able to accommodate it pretty well. And with COVID, in truth, the number of detentions is down. The local police departments are doing a great job of diverting where they can, but I think there's just fewer people on the streets, honestly, especially on the juvenile sector. There are some parts of juvenile crime that are up, the more violent end, carjackings in particular, but overall the detention levels are down. But to speak, yes, so I've already doubled my overtime budget. They were already 75,000 plus as of a month and a half ago. It's significantly up from there with them having to quarantine so much and really reduce. So we're trying to isolate kids within little pods so that they're not contaminating each other and restricting movement and things like that. So it has helped a little bit with the staffing because I don't need so many staff to move kids to court every day, and we're trying to do more Zoom. So it's helped a little bit, but yes, overtime costs are easily double. They'll probably be triple by the time the end of the year comes of what it would normally be.
So when we're looking at the dollars and cents, we need to keep an open mind to the fact that our base pay may be here and maybe we don't want to go to the next level, but yet in reality, we're paying that money out anyway.
Yes. There is some savings, I will say. I mean, there's more savings than overtime. It's true, but that savings comes at a cost.
Yes.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, Allen, question?
Yes, Ms. Allen, go ahead.
Ms. Oust, is the second courtroom in the JJC going to help as far as moving youngsters around?
It will to a certain degree. Abuse, and it is very true that the children, that young people, adolescents who are often involved in the criminal system also come from abuse and neglected pasts. But it's also true that a lot of the kids that we see coming through abuse and neglect court tend to be younger. So you have an abuse and neglect kind of history or traumatic event first. And then that trauma and the abuse and the neglect that is sustained over the course of your life leads you into acting out behavior, associating with bad people, and perhaps even joining a gang. Because for a lot of these kids, their home lives may not be very good. That's an understatement. And so there's something about the gang that attracts them. It's an artificial sense of family, of community, of belonging. It's antisocial. It's not a good association, but it's the path that some of these kids choose to take. And so it routes that way. So by the time that they get into delinquency court, there's not a lot of overlap with abuse and neglect, but if we focus a lot on abuse and neglect, our belief is that it will prevent them into coming into the delinquency venue. We call those youth dually involved. when they have a DCFS involvement as well as criminal involvement and the abuse and neglect and the delinquency behavior going on. We do have a substantial number of kids that fits, but it's not the majority.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move along. I don't see our circuit clerk online. Oh, I'm sorry. Good morning.
Good morning, I'm Karen Berwick, I'm the Chief Deputy at the Circuit Clerk's Office. Our report is on file. Teresa's at a Circuit Clerk conference, so she's sorry that she couldn't be here this morning. Couple of comments though that, yes, we also at the Circuit Clerk's Office do exit interviews with our employees, and overwhelmingly are finding that the majority of the reasons that our employees are leaving are because of pay
Microphone, please.
as well as workload. The workloads are high and the responsibilities of a deputy clerk is a lot, answering to the courts and doing all of the clerical work that they're doing, working with all the state and other agencies that we interact with every day. So a lot of the exit interviews are showing that they can go to other county offices, which we have lost people to other county offices for sometimes 10,000 more than we're paying a deputy clerk. Or they're going to the records departments and to police departments now too. So we again are feeling in recent times that we are a training ground as well. And when e-file came into play under the state of Illinois, now we also are a training ground for attorney firms privately as well, because with everybody having to e-file their documents, they want people that know how to do that. Deputy clerks know how to do that, and they know the ins and outs of that. And so we are losing to that sector as well. We continuously are interviewing. It is more than a day job to try to interview. I know that we've had quite a few applications come in and have done a lot of work to try to get those based with signs out front. We've done some virtual job fairs. We've done some in-person job fairs. Still not yielding enough applications to fill the positions that Circuit Clerk Barrero has in her office.
Right, thank you, Karen. Any questions or comments regarding the report or for our circuit clerk? Thank you for being here. Okay, and I have our coroner's report on file. We received that. Anybody here from the coroner's office? No, okay.
Yes.
Yes, I hear a yes.
Yes.
Hi, good morning.
Sorry. Hi, good morning. Real quick, I just wanted to say we've been extremely busy. Yesterday, we had 15 decedents in our cooler and freezer. It's been very, very busy. This building could not have come soon enough that, we are actually, for some reason, it's just been really busy. So pray for my people as we work through this, and it's just a big load on them, but they're doing a great job, and I'm very proud of them. And beyond that, things are going well.
Thank you, Coroner Russell. Any questions for the coroner?
15 decedents.
Mr. Leonard had a question that was 15 deceased.
That's correct. Yes.
Any, Shepro, any overriding cause or just a statistical anomaly?
Well, I don't know that it's an anomaly, but it's definitely a trend that, we had the bike crash on Randall. We had a couple of, probably at least a handful of suspected overdoses. And yeah, just a little bit of everything. But I don't know. It's just been a little crazy. And again, I've looked at this over the years, trying to find a time when, is there a certain season or a certain type of time when we peak and valley, and there's nothing consistent over the years. That sometimes February for some reason is a big month, or whatever. But yeah, I've not been able to chart an exact. So it makes it easier for me if I could do that, but you just don't know until you're in real time, what you need to do.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Brown?
I did notice, Mr. Russell, that you had more COVID deaths in the month of August in 2021 than you did last year in 2020.
Yes. Yes. Last year we had it was a time when they were going down tremendously. And, we had just like the national and the state, the ebb and flow of COVID for whatever reason. I'm not willing to put any specific reason. I think that this disease that's what it does. It's just, we got to work through it.
Can you acknowledge or share with us, do you know if those COVID deaths that you have, if those individuals were vaccinated or non-vaccinated? Can you share that?
We have been tracking that. I do not have the actual numbers for you, but I can research that with the person in my office that is tracking that. We're trying to track that, and so we have to. Again, it's another step. We have to call the hospital and or the health department to find out if they were vaccinated.
If you have that, I think that would be good information.
Sure, absolutely. I'll research it and have it sent it out via email.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coroner Russell. Okay, no further questions. Thank you so much for being here. We will move on to our new business. I have emergency preparedness. Under new business, I don't see Dr. Fagel here. Is he online? No? Okay, we'll reach out to Dr. Fagel and maybe bring him back next month if possible. So I will go ahead and make a motion, request to place the written reports on file if I can have consensus for that.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. And I don't see a need for executive session. If I can have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your time today.